Everybody, it's Mike from The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and brought to you by official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with a terrific gentleman who is a former global creative director of several world-famous brands, including the Mini Cooper, Levi's, and Asics, and also he spent 20-plus years as a multi-award-winning advertising creative specialist, and also he's been award-winning in 5 countries as well. And of course, he lives between Los Angeles and Berlin as a freelance advertiser, consultant for auto, fashion, lifestyle, finance, LGBTQ, and also a keynote speaker on DEI, self-love, and same-sex family law. And he's got a book out there, which is the first about queer divorce, and a personal memoir about his journey as well, inviting readers into the heart of a wonderful transformative journey, and basically a challenging one of burning the scripts of both worlds and facing his own fears, and also forging path to happiness, and also gripping resilience, and also the courage of asking hard questions, basically, about love, peace, and praise of happiness as well. The book is called How to Burn a Rainbow, and we're not going to have you all start a fire or anything like that. We're not going to literally how to do with matches or anything like that. This is not about you, pyromaniac. So if you're getting that idea, you'll be disappointed. Live, ladies and gentlemen, the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, the amazing former global creative director of several world-famous brands, and the book How to Burn a Rainbow, ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Karl Dunn. Karl, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Good day. Thank you very much for having me on, mate. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you on board, Karl. And it sounds like you were coming from Australia, not LA, Berlin. Sounds like Australia for you.
Way back, yes, yes, indeed. My parents are Australians, and I was actually born in Canada, and I lived the
Oh, wow.
first 8 years. Yeah, I was born in a tiny mining town in the middle of nowhere in far north Manitoba province. And my parents are quite epic travelers. They always have been. And yeah, they spent 10 years of their life in Canada, right, in these remote, like, frontier places. So I was born there, raised there until I was 8. Then I went back to Australia and was there until I was 25. And then I left. I thought maybe what was going to be for 5 years, maybe 10 tops, and come back to Australia. And I just kind of never made it back. I just ended up traveling all over the world, and I kept getting offered like a new job, great job in a new country I'd never lived in, and thought, that sounds amazing. Let's go there. So there was no master plan, but yeah. So I'm an Australian who's just ended up living all over the world, and 13 years of it in California. Yeah.
That's amazing. Going from LA to Berlin and back and
Mm.
everything, that's got to be a journey as well, too, with you being a former
Mm.
global creative director, several world famous brands, and also award winning advertising creative in 5 continents. And that is amazing as well, too. And
Yeah.
you're also a keynote speaker as well. You've got the book, How to
Hmm.
Burn a Rainbow. And before getting to
Hmm.
all that, career wise, tell us how you first got started.
Do you mean in advertising or as a
Yeah,
writer or?
be in advertising. I mean, you won all these awards. It's like
Well, yeah.
they say, how do you do it? Everybody's asking that. How would you do it?
I I mean, the thing is, you go and work with great people. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if you see a place in your industry, whatever it is, and you see there's someone who's doing work that you really like, you're like, okay, well, I want to work there. So that was always my thing. Like, if I saw an advertising agency that was doing great work, I just go and, you know, pitch in and see if I could get in the door and go and have an interview, and, just keep in contact with them. And eventually something would pop up. And I was very fortunate. I got to work with amazing people all over the world. But I think bigger than that, what that gives you is that, when you say are living in, I lived in South Africa for a while. I lived in Japan, in Tokyo. I lived in Hong Kong, in Amsterdam. The when you go and actually live in a culture, and you experience what normal is for them and how they do things. And, everywhere you go, there's always just different ways of looking at everything. Like, your world that you think is the be all and end all, you find out, oh no, it's just one way of doing it.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think I think that's what has really helped me in my career, is that I've learned so much from all the different countries that I've lived in and the people who live there, about how to look at life. And I think that makes, especially when you're working on a global stage,
Hmm.
it's really nice to be able to speak to, a global group of clients who are going to buy an idea, and you can actually talk about their culture because you've lived there. And, I think it just, yeah, I think that's a big reason. And then also, honestly, it always comes down to just keep it really simple. The simpler an idea, the better an idea, the more global an idea is. So
Mm.
simple ideas based on real human truths always win out. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm thinking more about, being on a global level that you're relating
Mm,
to people, liking a product and everything else. What did you say your most
mm.
favorite country that you lived in?
Wow. Well, I mean, there's something I love about all of them. I think in the States, the thing I love the most about here is this incredible, and I mean this in the most complimentary way, this kind of like almost naive optimism. Like everything is possible in the States. It is can do, let's go, rock on. Like, I love that idea. Let me help you out, buddy. People want to connect you with people. I love that about the States. But in Japan, what was incredible about living there is everything that we would just kind of not give any mind to, somebody has turned into a form of art. And every day, someone will put something in your hand. It might be a receipt from a store, but how it's folded up, you look at it and go, "Oh my God, that's beautiful." And you have these moments of beauty in your day, every day in Japan, things that you see, how people are dressed, the way a window is decorated. It's incredible. I mean, the consideration that people give to things, the devotion they give to craft is wild. I mean, it is,
Wow.
yeah, it's really something when everything you encounter, someone's really thought very deeply and hard about what this is before it's ever arrived in front of you. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Japan. And they also have an incredible, like, an engineering side of their brain that we're all very familiar with, but also this incredible connection to nature and simplicity.
Mm.
And I found it a beautiful place to live. I loved Japan. I mean, Hong Kong was wild. I lived there before the handover. Those were crazy days. Crazy days. I mean, crazy days. Singapore, also fantastic. I mean, that is a country you want to see some people get stuff done, like the Singaporeans, or they built a world-class uh yeah, what's the word, public transport system. It only
Mm.
went around half the island, and then the prime minister at the time said, right, I want this to go around the whole island. I want to cross over like in the middle so everybody can get access to it. And then 2 years later, it's open.
Wow. two
It
years it
two
took? Oh my
years. You
gosh.
just it's yeah, I mean, Singaporeans get it done, And so yeah, it's I don't know. I think there's something to be learned and valued from every place. And I miss them all. I miss them all. I wish I could have lived in all of them at the same time. And all the
Well,
other ones I haven't lived in.
and of course, with AI and cloning as well too, that is possible. It's like send your doppelganger over to Singapore, send your other half to Hong Kong, whatever it is.
Oh,
And you're talking about engineering and everything else. It made
yeah.
me think of Germany, just brilliant as well.
Yeah, I mean, Germany's a really interesting place to live also because it's they're are really they're really fascinating as a people. Like something I love about living there as a gay man is that my rights are not up for debate at all.
Hmm.
LGBTQ plus people have had rights for a generation. And it's a really interesting place to live when not just me, but a lot of other minority groups have had their rights for a generation or so. I don't want to make out like the place is absolutely perfect and we've got it all figured out, but I can certainly say as someone from my community, I'm not looking over my shoulder all the time, which I was when I was living here. It's like, well, we've got these rights now, but let's just wait for the next election because they could all be gone. I mean, we got marriage, they took it away, we got it back again. I'm speaking of California anyway, and but you never know, and
Yeah,
that's not
back and forth, back and forth
yeah,
between parties,
it's
trends, everything
exhausting.
else. Yes. Oh my
It's
gosh.
exhausting, and when you don't have to worry about that stuff, that takes up a lot of time and energy. And when you're not expending it on that, it gives you a chance to go like, maybe I would be good at this. I will put some time into this now. Or maybe I might enjoy, I don't know, opera. I'm going to go check opera out. It gives people a lot of space to grow themselves as opposed to trying to fight for their right to just be breathing. So yeah, I mean, I love that about Germany, and they're very matter of fact in dealing with things like that. They can be incredibly practical, and take all the emotion out of it, and just look at this makes sense to do. We have to do this, so it is done. But who knows? I mean, in these times we live in, it's all swinging, more conservative again. So, there's a party in Germany, for instance, called the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, who are the real far right party, and East East Germany voted AfD.
Mm,
So, I mean, I don't want to make out like it's all, peace, love, and mung beans and everything's going great there. I mean, everywhere in the world, we're all having our problems.
mm.
But I like living there, and I like living here, so I'm fortunate enough that I can do both and get, that kind of solidity, but also that kind of inspiration that I get from the
Mm.
States.
You were talking about East Germany earlier as well, too, being the AfD as well, too. And I thought
Mm.
to myself, do people living in East Germany still call themselves East Germany? Although Germany has come back together in the 80s when the Berlin Wall came down. Do they still call themselves East Germans over there still? Although Germany has come back together as one country?
Well, yeah, I mean, even before the wall went up, there was always a quite a different culture between West and East Germany, and the wall formalized it. I'm making this very simplistic, but the East Germans are very much a different. Um, they're a different group. They have different values. They have they're kind of to be honest, in an unfair way, they are often the butt of the jokes in Germany. And I think but I honestly, I have to say, like, my partner is East German, so we're often going back to his home village. And I mean, the people there, I can really relate to them. They remind me of what Australia was like when I was growing up, where people are kind of mistrustful of the government. Everyone kind of works a trade. If you didn't work for it, then you don't deserve. You have to work for everything that you have. There's a real kind of working man's
Yeah, yeah,
aesthetic
working
about
man, blue
Asia.
collar. That's one more
Yeah.
thinking of. Yeah, working man, blue collar. Almost like in the States in the say it
Mm,
like a working man mentality, blue collar,
mm.
get her done, everything like that.
Mm. But also there is, I mean, incredible wealth in East Germany as well. I mean, there are, great industries that like you have towns, for instance, like Dresden, which is in the former East, and that is a powerhouse in Germany. So you still have a lot of industrial cities there, which are very wealthy cities. But I think what's interesting about Germany is people are much more connected to the villages. So, a lot of people come from villages and smaller towns and move to the big cities. But I feel like there's a connection to them more so than, say, when someone comes from a small town here and moves to a big city in the States. I think, I don't know, it's just a feeling. I can't really exactly explain it and put it into words. But, I really enjoy, I think when you're in East Germany, you get to see a whole other side of what Germany is really like.
Hmm. And,
So, yeah.
and how's that contrast to West Germany from your perspective?
Um, Well, I didn't know we are going to get into German politics. I'm kind of not I'm not to be honest, I'm not the greatest on it because I live in the country and I try to keep abreast of it, but obviously a lot of the news is in German. My German's not fluent, so but I would say look, it's a very old country, and people forget that it only sort of unified in the 1850s, and it's a very old country that has all its history between all what were the former states and fiefdoms and whatever, and that is long. That is long. So anyway, yeah, lots of different types of people in one country.
And certainly did as well too. And of course, you be in advertising as well, going LA to Berlin and all that.
Mm,
And you be an author with the book How to Burn a Rainbow. We'll find out more in
mm.
just a minute with Karl Dunn. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios. Visit online at SoundCloudStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give a official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson Z has garnered great reviews. And Eve 11 enjoys
Mm.
about how its celebrities, including Joanna Consti, Forbes Riley, and Manils. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson Z, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on 40 podcast platforms. Heard in 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, also Apple Music, Odyssey, Podbean, Pandora. Subscribe to us on BitChute, Rumble, YouTube. Follow us on all socials like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, and more. Take us with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Be sure to check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson Zia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson Zia. Check it out today. And support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We hear the amazing former global creative director and freelance advertising consultant, and also the book How to Burn a Rainbow, Karl Dunn, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about your book, How to Burn a Rainbow, and like I said before, we're not going to do it, go to YouTube and try to light with a Bic light or anything. You've been advertising for quite some time, and I was going to ask you, how'd you first get involved with advertising?
Well, I got into advertising by way of the award school, which is the Australian version of how, honestly, almost everybody from my country who's in advertising, and we are all over the world. There's a lot of Australians working in advertising everywhere. We've all been through, the creatives anyway, have all been through award school. So it's a 3-month course. This is very Aussie. It's like a 3-month course. It's 2 nights a week. You learn and the Australian attitude is, here's all the basics. Now, get a job and go and learn on the job.
I wish it was
very
that simple
Aussie.
Here.
It's very Aussie. Yeah. So
Very Aussie.
that's kind of, yeah, they're often, actually, it's funny when I meet creatives from other places around the world, and they're all like, oh yeah, no, I was in advertising school for 3 years. And I think, why? Why? Because for us, it's literally like, here's how you do it, here's how you fly it, here's a parachute, go.
3 months. I'm gonna have to take up your advertising classes in Australia. I'm gonna have to do it now. Can you do that online, or do you have to go to school in Australia?
Oh, I don't know. Like I mean, I went to award school a long time ago, so it may have all changed. I mean, don't quote me on that. It may have all changed, but yeah, I mean, that's how I got my start. And then I was very fortunate. I landed, my first job was in an incredibly creative agency that, at the time, its work was appearing in all the international magazines that we were all following back then, and it was really recognized as a leading light creative shop. And that just, I was very fortunate. I worked with very talented people in my first job, which led to me getting another job working with more talented people in another country. And I just was very lucky. I got to work with some of the greats, and it just kind of went from there to there to there. And I think you just, I think, honestly, it's just always be learning, always be learning. The minute you think you know it all, you're doomed. So
I've heard that phrase before too, and everybody needs to keep that in mind too. It's like you got to keep learning, and everything else. You've been involved in a number of brands like Mini Cooper, Levi's, Asics as well too. And what would you say your most favorite campaign was?
That I've done?
Yes.
Actually, I would say my favorite campaign I've ever done is for Chanel.
Really?
And yeah, it was originally for a Valentine's Day campaign for their fragrance brand. So I'm very fortunate in that, I'm in the house. I'm somebody who Chanel, I work with them on occasion, and I've done several jobs with them, and it is a real privilege to be in the house, because I mean, I think there is a perception of what Chanel is. And then when you actually work for them, the biggest surprise for me is they are the nicest people. They are so smart. They really value your opinion. And
wow.
you have to bring your A game, because of the trust that's invested in you. It's lovely. They're an incredible company. I can't say enough nice things about them. And yeah, so I did a campaign with the team there for Valentine's Day, and it was for the fragrances. So I was writing, the idea was that it was like a love note that had been passed from the admirer of the person like the admirer to the person who's wearing the fragrance. And
Oh, nice.
each one of these love notes was very in tune. So, for instance, for Chanel number five, it's like, be my number one, number two, number three, number four, and number five, and be my first number five. And it's a kind of, I want to spend number five lifetimes with you. It's a very old, like that's a fragrance for an established woman who knows her life. And then it would be down to, Coco Mademoiselle, and which is a very young, flirty, fabulous, fragrance for, like a young woman, but he'd be like, I'm Coco mad about your eyes. And so we had these beautiful headlines, this gorgeous photography. I mean, they have excellent art directors working there. And then this campaign, I'm not joking, it got translated into I don't know how many languages. It went all over the world. And it is, I think to this day, the thing that most people have seen when they look at my folio. They're like, oh, I know this campaign. I saw it in every airport. It was great, and what I love about it was all about love. And that
Nice.
was, I think, the most beautiful thing about this campaign is it had a beautiful message, and it went everywhere. And I think again, it comes back to those universal truths that are very simple. Yeah, and they travel. So yeah, I'd say
Mm.
that's probably been my favorite thing. And it would be hard to pick because I've had a lot of great times in the industry for sure.
I was thinking about it. I've seen those Chanel ads all over, and next time I see
Ah,
a Chanel ad in my era, I will thank you for doing that. So I will
hey, my
remember that.
pleasure.
Yes, and I'll buy a Chanel for my wife, and I'll say, "Thank you, Carl, for reminding me how great Chanel is." So I mean, you got
My
some great
pleasure.
messages yourself. Of course, you've been a TEDx speaker as well too. DEI, self love, and everything, and you also tell some really good stories too.
Well, I know how to spin a yarn and tell a tale. Yes, that is true. That is true. Yeah, it's I guess I've kind of really always been a storyteller my whole life. I always wanted to write a book. And I just didn't know what it was going to be on. I think I always thought I was going to write I'd spent 7 years of my life in Los Angeles as a screenwriter. And I think I always thought, when the screenwriting didn't take off the way, I mean, I had a career, it wasn't the one that I was hoping for. But when that didn't take off the way I was hoping, I thought, well, maybe I'll turn one of my stories into a book. But then I started getting divorced, and then that became the first book. So yeah, it's life has a funny way yeah, life has a habit of happening when you're busy making other plans. Yeah.
Mhm. That's exactly it, and of course, you got a really good book, How to Burn a Rainbow. We'll get to that in
Thank
1 minute
you.
with Karl Dunn. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios, and brought to you by official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's Zia Missing. We'll be back with the author Karl Dunn of How to Burn a Rainbow after this time. We're back with the multi-talented Karl Dunn here on the Mike Wagner Show. Talk about his book, How to Burn a Rainbow, the global creative director of several world famous campaigns, including Chanel and more. And before we talk about your book, you've been, kind of writing a little bit as well too. You did some reading. Who are some of your favorite authors, writers, and your favorite books growing up?
Oh, okay. So I would say the three authors who have influenced my style as a writer, the most would be Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and many other great books. Malcolm Gladwell, who I'm a huge fan of, and also Mark Manson, who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And I'd say those three authors have had the biggest impact on me personally for my writing. But I mean, as far as authors that I love to read, I don't even know where to start. I read very widely, cross genre. Um, yeah, I'll go through a sci-fi phase where I'll pick up a series, and I'll read an entire series out, and then I might switch over to historical fiction and back again. I don't know. So there's gosh, I mean, I think some of the most beautiful books that I've ever read in my life would be probably like The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy, which I
Oh,
thought was
wow.
magnificent book. I mean, the language in that is just breathtaking. Her way with words is it's incredible. I'd say that was a really interesting, like a really beautiful book. I'd say one that impacted me. I was reading a lot, like as a lot of white people were during Black Lives Matter, starting to pick up a lot of books that I'd never kind of even investigated before. And Rennie Lodge's book, why I'm no longer talking to white people about race was a revelation for me. And what I found interesting is, as a gay man growing up in Australia and around the world, and her as a Black British woman, and her life experiences and mine, it's very interesting when you read someone who seems like would live a life very completely contrasted to yours, and actually have so many similarities in terms of the oppression that she was experiencing and what I was. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So, I found, I'll read works like that. And also just recently, and I've forgotten the author's name, there's a fantastic book called Yellowface, which
Oh,
it is, I mean, it is such a fascinating meta commentary on racism and
wow.
political correctness that is it. So the conceit is there is a Caucasian writer, and one of her best friends is an Asian writer who dies very suddenly. And this Caucasian writer, she takes this other writer's work and passes it off as her own.
Oh, wow.
But the writer of the book, Yellowface, is an Asian American woman who's writing a white woman who's impersonating an Asian woman through her work. So the meta levels of this are just, it's just a fascinating commentary on racism. And anyway, I love books that just like put me in the shoes of other people and let me walk in their lives and see things from their point of view. I absolutely love reading that way.
Mhm.
Mm.
It made me think of Mark Twain as well too. It's like, get in my shoes, maybe think of that principle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because, we think we know other people's lives, but we really have no idea how other people are living, because we see that and we make our presumptions based on what we know of life.
Hmm.
But when you actually, I found this, so often in my career, the shortest distance between two people is a story. And when two people share stories and they find out that they can actually see themselves in this other person's story, that's the moment when we realize like we have so much more that connects us than divides us. And I think books are it's an incredibly intimate relationship between writer and reader. There's no, Hollywood stars that have been cast in it. There's no this director's interpretation. It's just a pure telling of a story from a writer to a reader, and it's very intimate. And I think also what's beautiful about that is it's a story shared. But then what I've discovered as an author is once you've published a book, it's not yours anymore. You no longer own this book. This book now belongs to everybody who reads it, because I have my relationship with the book that I wrote, but the readers have all their own individual relationships with my book, and vice versa. And they are, like, for instance, my experience of reading Yellowface will be different to so many other people's. And I think that's a kind of amazing and beautiful thing about stories. It allows everyone to have their own personal, feeling and relationship and experience of work.
Hmm. It also made me think too. You talk about reading Yellowface. People
Mm,
when getting a different perspective from yours. There are times you pick up a book or a story and you have a completely different perspective, different meaning, everything
mm,
like that. It's like with movies, like say, for example, the Truman Show, where it's like you get one perspective and then you watch again, you get
mm,
another perspective and another perspective and another perspective. It's almost that same
mm.
principle.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I think it's one of the best courses I did in university was called, oh, I don't know. Like, I went to university in the 90s, so everything seemed to have the word postmodern in it because that was the word at the time. So it would be like postmodern culture and ways of reading. I'm like, all right, that sounds interesting. But what was fascinating is we took two texts, and one was a poem. It was the Pied Piper, and the other one was, what was the other text? It was a second text. But every week we were told, read this as a CEO of a capitalist company.
Oh.
And then the next week it would be, read this as a Marxist revolutionary. And
Hmm.
then you would have to write exactly the same text. You would then have to write your interpretation of it through that lens. You'd have to force yourself to put the lens on. Another one, read it as a feminist. Put your head in the space of a feminist, and now read this again. And what's so interesting is every week these two pieces of work would change utterly.
Wow.
The meaning of them, the scope of them, and what you found over 8 weeks, reading it 8 different ways, forcing yourself to read it 8 different ways, you realize it's all up to interpretation. Truth is very relative, you know. I think truth is all just based on our own personal experience, you know, and how we relate to the things that we see, and we then think that that is the absolute truth because it's what we know.
Mhm.
Whereas in actuality, it's just one take on it, you know.
Right, exactly it, and of course, this brings it to, How to Burn a Rainbow as well, too. It's
Mm.
not your typical Hollywood story. It's basically the first book about queer divorce, and it's a
Mm.
memoir about your personal experiences, and I'm sure you'll love to talk about it and tell us more about it. And if you wanna hold the book up for our audience as well, too, feel free to do so.
There we go. Right there. That is the book, How to Burn a Rainbow. So yeah, it started originally as a I thought I was writing. So when I started, my divorce started, I went looking for a book on gay divorce and I couldn't find one, much to my surprise. And then I thought, well, actually they only just let us get married like 10 minutes ago. So I'm probably, I mean, we were a little ahead of the curve with our divorce, I have to say, my ex-husband and I. And so yeah, I thought, well, I guess I'll write one. And so it started out more like a guidebook, to be honest. And then someone read the first draft and said, you know what, I think you've got a much bigger story here that's more like a gay eat, pray, love, and you're hiding in the, you know, construction of a guidebook so that you don't have to be completely 100% honest about what you're going through.
Mhm.
So I thought, oh, okay, good note. I'll go back and rewrite it then. And that's actually what it turned into. And so even though it's about a gay man who went through a divorce in California, it's the story is really not gay and it's not about divorce. It's about a human being who went through a human experience, because my divorce kicked off this journey to figure out who I am.
Mm.
And it took a crisis like that where I nearly lost everything, and I mean everything. It took me to being stripped back to that
Wow.
to actually be forced to sit still and go, all right, I'm clearly on this journey, whether I like it or not. So I better just embrace it and go with it. And it turned into, you know, my divorce is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I'm so grateful that it was as protracted and horrible and, you know, soul crushing as it was, because it was a rebirth, a complete rebirth. And it was it was great. I mean, you know, I never would have written this book otherwise. I never would have connected to all these people that I've met. I wouldn't be here on your show
Mhm.
talking to you about it. And you know, and to be in the, you know, the company of your listeners who get to hear about a story about divorce and questing to find yourself, and you know, and kind of, you know, the perspective of someone else who's gone through probably a lot of the same feelings that they've gone through. You know, it's funny, the book is connecting that part, the bigger journey is connecting with so many people all over the world who are, you know, not from the LGBTQ plus community, and they're not divorced. They've got very different life circumstances going on, but they're saying your book's really helping me because it's connecting with them. It's offering wisdom and companionship and tools and techniques. And you know, it's the amalgamated wisdom of over 100 people that I met either on the path, on the way, or they're writers who I revere, whose work I reference. And yeah, wrapped all up in this story of somebody who went on a quest to find themselves, burnt every rainbow they were supposed to be chasing, and figured themselves out and ended up in a place of self-love, you know, and that's something everyone can relate to.
Mhm. It almost
Mm.
sounds like, in a sense, it's kinda like, a self-help, self-therapy, and everything like this. Even if you're not going through
Yeah.
divorce, it's like you
Yeah.
get some tips, tools, tricks, a little bit of exercises, and, it can be like, "Hey, let's not have this happen again," and such.
Yeah, it's funny actually when it doesn't really fit neatly into any genre, which is something that I'm very proud of. You know, it's like you say, it is definitely a guide for anyone who's going through a divorce, because there's a lot of incredibly practical wisdom about what divorces are. And us as a community, we had not asked enough questions about marriage, and certainly zero about divorce before we all ran off to the altar. So there's a lot of that in there. And if someone's going through a divorce, it's extremely helpful. But it's also very much a spiritual book. It is a self-help. It is a kind of mashup of kind of pop culture essay as well. I mean, there's a whole deep dive that I do when I'm in the middle of my divorce. Someone asked me, "Why did you get married?" And I listed down the reasons why I got married. And then I realized, like, actually, you know what? I don't think I ever really asked myself, what is marriage? And so in the middle of my divorce, when I'm, in Berlin and I'm broke and I'm penniless and I have nothing better to do than write a book and sit in the library every day because it's free and the coffee's cheap. And yeah, I did this whole like deep dive into the history of marriage. Like, what is it? Where does it come from? And also the history of divorce. And what's amazing is the number of heterosexuals who've read it and gone, dude, I didn't know any of this about marriage and divorce. Like, uh, I didn't think I was going to read a book about gay divorce and get schooled up on actually what marriage is and where it comes from. So, yeah, it's been pretty wild. And I think, the biggest message and the journey I went on was really to know myself. And I think to know yourself is it is the single most radical act a human being can do, because everything in this society is working very hard against us ever really truly knowing ourselves. We are eternally, questioning, why do I feel like this? And looking for external validation for all the things that we feel inside, all the ill feelings that we feel inside. Whereas actually, when you know yourself and you go on that journey, and it's hard work, but it's pretty exciting along the way. Like understanding yourself at every step of it, which can be some pretty brutal work at times, but every time you discover something new about how you're wired inside, it's very exciting because you're like, oh, I know myself better. And it gets very
Nice.
addictive. Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think a lot of people think, oh, this will be worth it one day. And no, it's worth it every step of the way. It's worth every single day that you're on it, even the ones that feel terrible. It's worth it. And then when you get to this spot where you really know yourself, it gives you a totally different lens on looking at the world, which again, I didn't know that when I was starting. I had no idea where this book was going to end up. I was literally in the middle of my divorce, in the middle of the journey while I'm writing the book. So
So you're kind of
the,
writing it as you go along the divorce process through lawyers
oh
and
yeah,
getting all your stuff,
yeah,
arguing, negotiating, or it's not you, it's me type of deal.
yeah, all the way along. And but also what I would say is when I finished what I thought the book was going to be, it when you do any kind of work as a memoirist, a part of that is you actually have to, go through a whole legal process because you're writing about events that happened in real life. And even if you change everybody's name and all of that, that's legally, for America, that's legally not enough. You have to really do the work. And I'm glad I did, because what what it revealed in the process was that memory is a really interesting thing. Memory is
Mm.
incredibly unreliable. We remember things often as we wished they had gone, not how they actually went. And also, when you're going through great trauma, like I was during my divorce, your brain will hold on to things and go, I don't think you're ready to know this yet. So I'm just going to keep this in a box and we're going to wait a minute. And when you're ready, a little further down the track, when you're a bit better, I'll let you know the whole story. And it's very interesting. When I went through this process of working with the lawyers, it was a forced passage of time, which gives you more time to reflect on your own culpability. And also when I had to collect legal documents and read them, go like, oh, this didn't go exactly how I remembered it now that I'm reading the transcripts. Like I conflated things and whatever. So it actually helped me get the story straight, which I'm really pleased with. And then the passage of time helped me own 100% of my half of everything that happened, so that
Oh, wow.
there's no blame anymore in the book. I think it's too easy to blame people. Whereas the book, one of the first things that happens in it, one of the first big pieces of knowledge that the book drops is from a woman I used to work with called Miriam, and it's called Miriam's Law, and it is a law about radical responsibility. This woman
Really?
she does not do victim. She has no time for that. She does not play that card. And instead, she went through something that was, a work scenario where it seemed very much like her business partners had basically kind of made her redundant while she was out having a baby. So when she came back, the offer was basically to buy her out, not to welcome her back to a job. And I was incensed on her behalf.
Really?
But she said to me, yeah, she said to me, these was amazing. She goes, no, no, anger's not required. I knew if I was away for any amount of time, they would try something like this. Like I know those boys better than they know themselves. And then she said to me, so when I was pregnant, I decided I was going to have my baby over my business. So how can I be angry at them for doing exactly what I expected them to do? And
That is a good point. I like that.
when she dropped that, I was like, whoa. I had to rethink everything that happened in my relationship until that point. And I realized, you know what? I've been expecting most of this to happen, which means I'm at least 50% responsible for why it happened. I may even have set the trap,
Hmm.
which is very different to pointing and going, you did this, you're a
Like,
bastard,
like
you know?
common in America, they always, finger pointing, drama building, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yes, especially
So
Hollywood too. My God.
I mean, was a really powerful lesson because when you approach everything as going, okay, when anything happens to you, even the stuff that feels incredibly unfair, something I learned going through this process is if my first question is not why is this happening to me, but if my first realization is, okay, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. So what was my role in this? And what am I supposed to learn? And when you approach anything that happens to you like that, it is radical because you don't need the drama. You don't need the cheerleaders. You don't need to report in with people and tell them what happened. And then, oh, that's terrible. And you're like, I know. Like when you don't play that game and you just look at it as like, okay, this is Earth school. Like I'm here on Earth to learn lessons, and this is one of them.
Hmm.
Your evolution as a human being, it just accelerates. And I mean, I it's funny when I talk to Miriam about that conversation, which she can barely remember because for her it's just such an innate way to be. I said like, I think you could have your own, like you could start your own
Your own
your own
business.
life
You're right.
coach
It's like,
business,
have a baby
yeah.
and a business at the same time. It's like there's always something better for people. That's how I look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a and I think going through this, whenever I would have these emotions that I would want to run from, instead of running from them, I just see like, all right, well, I'm going to invite this one in and get to know it. Let's make it coffee, let it sit on the couch, let's chat, let's get to know each other. And so, whereas my knee-jerk reaction had been to, I would have a feeling that I hated, and then I would have a feeling about how I felt, secondary emotions, so it might be anger, and then there would be, like regret or something would come and visit because of this thing that had happened that I was angry about or whatever, that I should have done something different back before. And then I would go out and do something in reaction to that feeling, like, okay, I'm going to go to the club and drop my card down here and get hammered, or I'm going to go and buy something in a designer store or whatever, like, and then feel all the guilt and shame and repercussions of those things. Instead, you wind it all back to the original feeling that you have, and you go, I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going
Hmm.
to sit with it and learn some more about it and learn some more about how I'm wired. And then you never go and do all these other things. So you just spend the time getting to know yourself. And
Right.
it's fantastic. I mean, and like I say, it took me almost losing everything to force me to sit there. So if anyone's listening, you don't have to wait till then, like I did. You can get started on it anytime you want, you know?
Hmm. And most
Mm.
only starts with a book as well. And where can we find How to Burn a Rainbow at?
Well, How to Burn a Rainbow it's for sale on all online platforms, so on Amazon. Word of warning, there are two listings for it on Amazon. One is defunct and one is live. So if you get to the defunct page and it says it's out of print, it's not. You can find it on, just click paperback or ebook, you'll go to the live listing. Figuring it out with Amazon how to fix that glitch. But anyway, just in case, because a few people have written to me and gone, it's out of print. I'm like, "Ugh." But it's also available on most online platforms. And of course, you can always go to a bookstore. So if you have a big bookstore around the corner from you and you want to order it from there, just ask them for How to Burn a Rainbow. They can order it in. Or if you like supporting your local bookstores, go and order it from them. They can get it
Okay.
in for you
And
too.
and
Yep.
and, ho- and how about your website?
Oh, on my website's karldunn.com, and you can find the book there and a bit of a blurb about it. And also on my website, there's a prequel to the book, and it's called How to Chase a Rainbow. And it's about 10 dates that I went on before I met my ex-husband on the 11th date. So there's these 10 tragicomic dates I went on over a year in Los Angeles in 2008 at the dawn of online dating. And that's available as a free download when you join my newsletter.
All right. Well, certainly
Yeah.
check those out. Once again, we're with the amazing author Karl Dunn of How to Burn a Rainbow here on the Mike Wagner Show. Just a few more things, Karl. We'll love to have you back. What else can we expect in 2024 and beyond?
Well, I'm starting to speak on DEI topics, so diversity, equity, and inclusion, because of some amazing experiences that I had just, from living all over the world, but, all the people that I met along the way doing my book really showed me we have the most to learn from the people who are the least like us. And, too much in this day and age, we're staying in our bubbles, we're staying around people with the same opinions as us. And actually, that's in our own disservice because it's by only being in conversation and not cancellation with people who are very different to us that we can actually learn the most about ourselves. And it's tough in these times when every algorithm is working on keeping us angry and clicking and
Oh
yelling at each
my
other.
gosh. Yeah. Don't get me on
So
that subject,
I mean,
Facebook. Thank you.
yeah, it's really tough, but it's actually, it's really the only way forward, I think. We all need each other. We're all pieces, like, we're all parts of a watch, and there is no most important part of a watch. They're all important. They're all just as important. So I'm working on that, but also I'm starting to speak at family law conventions on same-sex divorcing couples 101. It's like I said, marriage is very recent, divorce is even more recent, and now divorce lawyers are finding increasing numbers of people from our community walking through their doors, and we are coming in with different issues, different needs, things that we need explained to us that might be like kind of general knowledge for the rest of society. So this is actually, it's turning out I'm actually able to campaign for us on in our divorces by speaking at family law conferences and family law firms. So I don't know. I'm writing. I've got, you go on a book tour like this, you have a lot of ideas on the next book you want to write. But the next one is about connecting people together in an increasingly divided world, which I think is a message that we all need. So I'll be writing, I'll be speaking, I'll be doing my thing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the journey continuing with the next book and
Yeah.
everything that's also going to happen with How to Burn a Rainbow.
Yeah, certainly did as well. And we are looking forward to it as well, Karl. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
In my career as a writer, I would say my biggest influence is Elizabeth Gilbert. I think she's just an astonishing human being. I love her writing. I love that she writes across genres, and she's somebody who just preaches is not the right word, she espouses love. And I've seen her speak live, and it is 2 hours, mesmerizing 2 hours of basically just her with a microphone talking about mercy and
Wow.
love and connection. It was astonishing. She did not or once and was captivating. And I actually met her and was able to give her a copy of the book. And so she has seen it and kind of blessed it, and said, she congratulated me on putting something like this out into the world. So yeah, I would say probably Elizabeth Gilbert be my biggest influence. Yeah.
Certainly did, and does sound like it. I think we all want to be like her. And what's the best advice
Yeah.
you can, right? And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Oh, I'd say just know yourself. Get to know yourself. I think it is just the greatest thing that any human being can do. And, walk the path, do your thing. And I would say also, if you're someone who's wanting to do something, like put something in the world, a book or a thought or anything at all, a recipe book, whatever it is. If you have something you feel you want to contribute in the world, you see this little dent that you want to make in the universe, do it. It is the greatest thing in the world to take whatever it is that you are feeling and thinking and just put it out there because it connects with so many people who are like, oh, I feel this. And they've been waiting for it. So do your thing. Absolutely. Know yourself and do your thing. Ah, there we go. That's a good wrap up. I like that.
I love that part. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
apply it when I
I'm
get
gonna, I'm
some.
gonna have to copyright that. Know yourself and do your thing. Yeah,
There
that's
you
actually quite
go. There you
good.
go. Maybe the next
I like
ad
that.
campaign. Who knows?
Maybe that's the next book title. Know yourself and do your thing.
There
Yeah.
you go. I think that'd be a great idea. We're here with author Karl Dunn of How to Burn a Rainbow here on the Mike Wagner Show. Karl, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you
Thanks,
again
mate.
soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'd love to have you back. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your book?
So my website is karldunn.com. So it's K-A-A-R. I can't even spell my name. It's KARLDUNN.com. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Karl Dunn on there, like really easy. And also the book is available online on all online platforms, or you can order it from your local bookstore. And yeah, you can also sign up for my newsletter on my website at karldunn.com.
And we'll certainly do that. And once again, what's the website?
It's karldunn.com, KARLDUNN.com.
All right. We'll certainly check that out. Once again, Carl, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon.
Thank you, mate.
No problem. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We love having you back. Wish you all best. And Carl, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thanks so much, mate. All the best to you too.